Boom, 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 boom. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. It's all my brain and body need. Boom, 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 boom. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. Boom, 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 boom. It's very good indeed. Keep your silly ways and keep them out the city. I know my name is Simon. I know it's going to fit. Bum, 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 bum. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. Boom, 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 boom. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. Very good indeed. How you doing? How's it going? for that song, Sully will have to do 10 Hail Marys later. That's all right. I've been practicing in the backyard with my executive producer, stuffed animal, a Pikachu. Thank you from me and Pikachu from our Boston studios, which is down the street from the corner. Live and direct from Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America, North America, planet Earth, solar system, outer spiral arm, Milky Way galaxy, local cluster, Virgo group, Laniakea supercluster, known universe, somewhere in the grand, undiscovered, yet to be unrealized multiverse of possibilities. It is the Super Sully Sunday stream, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, weekly. Tune in, turn on those notifications, smash that like button if you could. It suggests this humble little program to the waiting ears and eyes of the world. What do we have this week? We have new comic books, fresh from my local comic book shop, my LCS. And it's a big reason why we do this show. I'm a big believer in how are we going to save comic books? We need to show up at our local comic book shops, our LCS, every week, once a month, get a pull list and spend your money there. And also, I know you need them too. I get my bags, I get my boards, and I get my boxes at my local comic book shop. This is the ubiquitous brown paper bag that you get at the local comic book shop. Sometimes it comes in a plastic bag as well. Yule Carter of Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California, usually furnishes one of those nifty plastic handled bags that say free comic book day, first Saturday in May. That's an evergreen product. And it's a great advertisement, especially for a local comic book shop. And this is a shameless plug for Yule Carter's Fantastic Comics of Berkeley, California. You can find his link. His deets are in the details of this very show. And you can get some back issues. I've shopped with Yule several times now. He's always sent them to me very promptly, very efficiently, very well packed in a Gemini mailer. And I've always been satisfied. I am proud to say that Fantastic Comics of Berkeley, California is one of my local comic book shops. I live in the Boston, Massachusetts area. I have no lie, at least 5 different comic book shops, which is in striking distance of this, my own very fortress of solitude. That's right. Let's see. The chat is blowing up a bit. The Legend of Sully. You should watch West's video on Tim Drake that he posted today. It is a sad state for my favorite Robin. What are they changing his identity again? You know, he went from Red Robin to Drake and back to Red Robin, and now he's just Spare Robin. Now there's 2 Robins because there are 2 Flashes, and there are literally 7,200 Green Lanterns, because there used to be 3,600 Green Lanterns, one for each sector of space. That, I guess you would have to be 3601, because Sector 0 is Oa. And who is the Green Lantern of Oa? That's right, Greet. Greet, he is the chef of the commissary at the Green Lantern Corps Citadel on Oa. Come on! I'm a chef, I know that. He's one of my favorite Green Lanterns. Jagron 2 says, so I just read this afternoon JSA number 2 and all new Venom number 1. Great. We're going to talk about all new Venom. I did not get to JSA number 2 yet, But I did see a really nice variant cover at my local comic book shop today when I picked up the full list, and it looked like Queen's. It was meant to be evocative of Queen's video Bohemian Rhapsody, the famous four diamond, with the black background and the shadows, the light, and you had Jakeem Thunder and you had Jesse Quick and you had two other JSAers, like for the other parts. But it's a really nice cover. Almost got my dollar, but I'm taking a break on this JSA. I stopped buying Jeff Johns and Mikhail Janin's JSA at the 2022, and it was not because of the hiatus. It is just I ran out of steam on that. So Dolan and Wes had it as worst of the week. I didn't find it that bad. 6.5 out of 10. Venom, yeah, exactly. I read Venom, all new Venom. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I have not bought many comic books this year. But you know what, Tabletop Junkie Games? You are supporting a hobby shop, a brick and mortar shop, a local business. I think the comic book shop and the craft and hobby shop are they're brick and mortar mom and pop shops. They are the American dream. They are the last of their kind in a way. Small businesses, the American dream. That's why I buy my supplies at my local comic book shop, my LCS, is because I'll agree to pay the markup because I could get everything cheaper on Amazon. I know that the amount of, I went through a whole, if you look in the playlist of this show, I went through a whole year. We reboxed, reboarded, and rebagged my entire collection. And it was nice to just go through old floppies and old runs and to wrap your head around what's grading. I got the Overstreet Price guides, a couple of them, and I need a new one, and the Overstreet Guide to Grading. And that was such an educational experience, being a lifelong comic book fan, finding out more and more about this beloved hobby of ours. So fear thee not, Ghost. And I just paid for a one-shot from Mr. Yule and will send to me later this month. Though I am spending over $10 for a Denny's Camp comic Ultimate Universe 1 year in. Is that you, Lane Kramer? Yeah. Howdy, Bone. Good to see you. Oh, thank you for dropping the link into the chat there for Yule Carter's store. Hello, AL. Good to see you. Let's just check out. Let's catch up with the chat. Then we're going to go over the list of things my executive producer wrote for me and that horrible scribble of handwriting of his. Yuck, yuck. People want him to be a second-rate Robin. And he could be. I liked Tim Drake. He was never a second-rate Robin to me. He's the smartest Robin, in my humble opinion. He's smarter than Damian. He's smarter than Dick. He's definitely smarter than Jason. Smarter than Stephanie. Smarter than Carrie. Unless Riri Williams becomes the next Robin, or JoJo Mullen gets zapped down to teenagehood and she has to learn how to be a detective all over again. But it's all muscle memory waiting to be unlocked. She needs to be a teenage Robin. Let's do it. See, I should be writing for DC Comics, huh? Shouldn't we all, though? And let's see. Wow. Hey, Mo. How's it going? Salam, everyone. Good to see you. Let me just catch up with the chat. Good. All right. We are. Happy birthday, Mo. It's chilly in Saudi Arabia. That's awesome. And Mo being proof that comic books unite us as a culture globally. That's right. And that superheroes are a universal archetype. Heroism, saving people, fighting evident evil or misunderstandings. It's great. Also, let's see what's not on this list of things to do that Pikachu made for me. Pikachu's here at the new studio. He was that important. We got a background working. I got some Christmas stuff, some festive and holiday stuff. I got my little Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and I've got a couple of Robotech Macross Valkyries, Veritex in robot mode and Battleoid mode, Patroid mode, decorating the tree. One of them is Ben's decorating the tree. The other two are, guarding, just waiting for some to suppress some Zentroni fire while lighting the Tannenbaum, one could say. Indeed, it's winter already. But not just, Mo, I was wondering, I was in a conversation today on the X Twitter with Jean Jonty. She's from New York City. She's a 40-something black lady. Great gal. She's a gamer. And she likes comics as well. Please follow Jean Jonty on X Twitter. Amazing conversations. Love her. And but she's pushing back against a very big YouTuber, Melanie Mack. She's a Christian gamer chick. She's in her mid to late 30s. Pretty, really beautiful. But she's like super Christian. And so she has problems with the modesty standards. They're talking about modesty standards in the video games and how, they sound, we're going for the clickbait right now. They sound like SJWs. The anti-wokes are actually the woke right. And they sound that way. And so, but it's like, it's just, I noticed that today. Like I've been hearing of this thing called the woke right, and it is like Christian fundamentalism, you know what I mean, through the cultural lens of the academic postmodernism with critical theories that, since they did it from lefty progressive standards and of purity, and of just, yeah. So I'm thinking like that there's definitely a woke right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. A woke right. Yeah. It's out there, and it's just, it's conservatism. It's a deeper conservatism. That's further away from the middle, the literal far right. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm getting that. So I was saying, like, because Mo, oh, cool. Yeah, she's awesome. I think so. And like, hey, if maybe like, hopefully you can like run into her at New York City Comic-Con next year, but I think that's where Jean is coming from too. Like, she's Christian, but not like unreasonable. We're talking about booties and boobs in video games, jiggly women and like, and kind of the things that the left would call male gazy. Well, we're the woke right are going to call degenerate. Like, your degenerate behaviors. You're like bringing us all down into Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, just like and I'm like, hey, what's up, James? Good to see you. The woke is a psychological issue, unfortunately, for all of us. It's a very damaging one. Yeah, it could be, but I also think it's a trend, and it's an era, and it will come to an end after it runs out of gas, and then the only thing I got to say good about academic postmodernism with critical theories is that it is a late 20th century philosophy and way to run things. You know what I mean? We're not just totally relying on 18th and 19th century shit anymore. Something that's truly closer to a 21st century value system and philosophy. I mean, we are a quarter way through the 21st century. We are. And have we made a new energy source? Have we made a new philosophy yet? You know what I mean? Have we made a new financial system? We might have. Indeed, we live in great times, I believe. Ha ha! Huzzah! But yeah, I was getting to this list of stuff. But yeah, I call it the incels versus the degenerates. And so I hear this term bandied about my YouTube shows that I've been watching for years, and it's really easy for to call people degenerates. I've heard ads say it a bunch of times. Miss Max say it, a bunch of times, I guess. I hear even Ethan Van Sciver, one of my favorites. But at least I know he's a Mormon, and I know that's where he's coming from. So buttons, as Mo says. Degenerates. That's like wicked judgmental. That's like you're judging that they are less than human. They're somewhat human, but they are like degenerated to a state that's beneath you and under you. And from there, that's a slippery slope. That from there you can justify atrocity. I mean, I see it. I love philosophy, and I love robust thoughts. That's funny. My daughter calls me a degenerate, but it's like a buzz term, and it's going around. And I see it as like the left like to call us in the center and in the right incels, but the right, they call them degenerates, and I think that both are so odious and gratuitous and heinous words. I love words. I love vocabulary. I love succinct words. Ah, boy. And I love that everyone is showing up for the Super Sully Sunday stream, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, weekly. That's right. Remember when this show started? We did a daily show. We did a 365 days book from January 1st to December 31st called The Golden Age of DC Comics, 365 days. You just open that big old book up to today's date. You'll look at some comic book art of an antediluvian age. We would read the blurb, and then we would talk about comic books. And we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. That's how we started off every one of those programs. And that was a real learning experience as well. The golden age of comics, of DC Comics. Because it wasn't just the DC Comics. It's been every publication that they bought out since then. And, like Fawcett Comics and Charlton Comics. And just the quality comics. So Plastic Man was in there. So Shazam was in there, because they are DC Comics. They're DC characters, but they didn't start that way in the 40s, back in the Golden Age. The Golden Age of comics run from 1938 to 1955. The Silver Age from 1956 until 1970. The Bronze Age from 1970 until 1984. From 1984 until 1993 is called the Copper Age. And these are the ages according to the Overstreet Price Guide's glossary that we've been in this nebulous catch-all modern age of comics since 1993 until now, today. I think that's a little long. I think I have my own system. I would expand the Copper Age to include not just because it ends in 1993. And what is 1993 in comics? Anyone? Eugene in the back. Eugene? You raised your hand, Eugene? Oh, you need the bathroom pass. Okay. Don't come back smelling like what marijuana, please, Eugene. But thank you, Mo. Okay, Mo is got an answer to the question. Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 10 was banned when it was first released because of violence. He's referring to the first Mortal Kombat game to be banned in Saudi Arabia, but it was later available later when Mortal Kombat XL was released. Indeed. And yeah, I was just thinking I'm just thinking about these cultural standards. In 2020, Disney released a version of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker to United Arab Emirates and Singapore. And I think there was one more Muslim country in that too, that deleted the gay kiss at the end of Act 3. And so I was wondering, so would these video game standards, does UAE, does the Singapore, or do other, do Muslim countries have a modesty standard that you're not allowed certain games, not just because of the violence, like as Mo's reporting here, but out of big jiggly bottoms and tops, the whole male gaze thing that the lefties are going after, progressives. the whole reason why video game women have been uglied, and they're not pretty, and usually not pretty anymore. Look at the devolution of Lara Croft of Tomb Raider over the past 30 years, and let's see what's going on. There we go. But yeah, incels versus degenerates. Hey, we got to the clickbait of the title. I mean, but yeah, I've been in the YouTube spheres for about 5 years now. I've had this show this will be going on in our 4th year of show production. I started off watching Jenny Nicholson, Robert Meyer Burnett, Gary Beekler, Nerdrotic, Doomcock, especially their Sunday night jam show, The Inquisition. I miss The Inquisition. That was some of my favorite TV. It's about good radio. It's about not having dead air. It's about having something to say. And I was a member of Gary Beekler's Nerdrotic channel before COVID, before lockdown. I remember I had to eliminate all of my extra stuff when my furlough. I was on work furlough for several months, from mid-March to about November of 2022. But it was like, there was a lot of government money. It was just, yeah, I mean, there was just like, so no one went broke, no one and yeah. Can I be an uncle if I'm married? Sure. You can be a monkey's uncle, especially you could be a Pia Pika's uncle. This Pika is taking, applications for uncles, aunties, and anyone in between in the grand spectrum of humanity. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't so yeah, to use the word degenerate for me, it's kind of like, that's wicked harsh, kid. I mean, dude, those are fighting words. Like, wow, I could see a Christian person calling me a degenerate for any of my sins, for any of my choices, for, because I don't fall in line with their very rigid lens on life and how life should be lived. And so I've heard the word degenerate, but only on the center right to right part of the aisle. I only hear incel used by the center left to far left on the other side of the aisle. And there's that, huh? So yeah, so we have thank you for the clickbait title. Yes, incels versus degenerates. It's the woke versus the anti-woke SJWs. That's right. They use the same tactics, but they have a different point of view. Right on. Mm-hmm. Let's see. It's also, it's the 45th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite shows. It's movie in 1979, December 7th, 1979. To be honest, to be true, premiered Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I remember going to see it. I was 7 years old, and McDonald's had released its first Happy Meal. Happy Meals were premiered in 1979, and the first toy for the Happy Meal. Hold on one second. General Balzac, I salute thee. Welcome. Good to see you. My wrestling is a weird hodgepodge of memories. It's pretty good up until the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, I basically checked out when Hogan went Hollywood. When Hogan had his heel turn. I mean, and I wasn't into WCW. And I remember going to Disney World, and there was a WCW ring because they had shot the night before, live down there. And so it was just like we were entering the park first thing, and they were taking down the whole WCW kit that was in that outdoor area right outside of Disney World. Talking YouTube is really thirsty business. It's a thirst trap. So yeah, Generation X, Degeneration X. Yeah, that's the whole suck it thing, right? Yeah. But yeah, true. Woke is terrible, but anti-woke is just as bad. Yeah, thanks. I mean, that's what I was like, I'll take degenerate. If, in the words of Triple H, are you a degenerate? I know I am. His words, not mine. I get it, yeah. But like in 2024, I mean, it's like, I'll also take weeb. But in 2024, but like with that intention, right, I don't think they're using it even with the sense of kayfabe, but to keep it wrestling, you know, they mean it. They do. But that can, like, when they say degenerate, there's a lot of weirdness on the left side. But then there's a lot of real marginalized people looking to get taken seriously that are getting, like, you know, caught in that crossfire. I think so. I think so. Ha ha! Mega Sully snort there. Thank you very much. You can tell those are authentic, huh? But Star Trek, the motion pictures, 45th anniversary. I remember getting 2 of the 4 Happy Meals. Remember, they had boys' Happy Meals and they had girls' Happy Meals. I forget what the girls' toy was, but the boys' toy was Star Trek, the motion picture, and it was the first McDonald's Happy Meal. And 2 of the toys, or the game parts of the insert. Hey, Fair Monarch. It was probably Barbie. You're probably right. Yeah. And one was an iron-on of the Starfleet logo, you know, with the famous, you know, Delta, and it was round and it had 2 stems on the side. And I ironed that. My mom ironed it onto a blue shirt because I'm a Spock. You know what I mean? I love, IDIC, an infinite diversity is infinite combinations. Fascinating. It appears to be ... I mean, like I'm a Spock. So yeah, that ended up on a blue shirt. And then came this little plastic mold that was meant to resemble the flip communicator. So it had a hinge with a little lid, and in the inside was a spool of a comic, and you had a crank on the side, and it wasn't that big, you know, but it was just complicated enough. But it was like meant to be like the tricorder or the communicator, maybe a bit of both. But it had a display, and you could change the display by cranking the little, the comic on the inside, and and it was yellow, I think. But yeah, that was the first McDonald's Happy Meal. And I was 7 years old, and I went to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and I had grown up with Star Trek in constant reruns. Not just Star Trek, but Star Trek the Animated Series. And when I mean Star Trek, I mean Star Trek the original series, because this was the early 1970s. UHF television, the higher bands, played Star Trek endlessly in reruns. I grew up with a lot of Star Trek. You know, I knew Star Trek before I knew Star Wars. I knew Star Trek before I knew Space 1999. Star Trek could be my first ever sci-fi. Mm-hmm. You can write that down. Yeah. Yeah, Voyage. I mean, TNG came out when I was 14. You know, I was a teenager, and I was already a Star Trek fan, and I was already like grown up reading those pocket books, the novels, like Vonda McIntyre's books, like Entropy Effect. Oh my goodness, George Lucas says we live and breathe. It's like we mention him, and he just shows up. He stares at us. Good to see you, George. Yeah, I remember I had we had just got out of high school, and I remember being down in Cape Cod, going to Buzzards Bay, where my friends went to Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and hitting a McDonald's there before you hit the Bourne Bridge. And I got the White Ranger, as an action. It was an action figure and like a little like Tiger Zord kind of thing with wheels in it, and it didn't connect onto other ones. It was just the was it the Tiger Zord or was it the White Eagle Zord? I think it was the white. Was it the White Eagle? I'm not. But it was a real 3 3/4 White Ranger action figure, and I had to have it. I love the Power Rangers, dude. When Tommy got the upgrade from green to white Ranger, it was like I wasn't disappointed because I mean Green Ranger's fucking Green Ranger. I mean that's just like iconic, and even then it was just like so cool, you know. So is that it? Are we thinking? Well, let me finish up Star Trek, and then we'll get into comic books, and we'll lead off with All-Star Venom #1 because we're starting to talk about it in the chat. But let me just say that Star Trek: The Next Gen. I mean, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I just read the novel. I had it read to me on audiobook unabridged. But the thing is that Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, wrote the novelization of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He did not write the script and screenplay. Yet, he wrote the novelization, the adaptation of the movie, and there were so many scenes in there like that were kind of added. Now I've never seen the director's cut. There's been in the past couple of years, there's a director's cut. Bite your tongue, AL! Sacrilege! Talking about giving out Hail Marys. What? Pika wants an Apostles' Creed. You'd be lucky to get Apollo Creed or Adonis Creed at this point. Hey, put them up. And but yeah, I mean, so I haven't seen the director's cut. I might have seen it. I think I have it. I'm not sure. I have a box set of like the Star Trek 50th anniversary box set that has all the movies, the original series and the animated series. I got the entire 735. I've got the entire I got everything on physical media. It's usually in the backdrop of the old, studio with all the eagle moss. They'll be coming. They'll be here when it's time. And AL, I think it had a very unique pacing. I also believe that it was very pacifist because Star Trek: The Motion Picture, so Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 4, the Enterprise crew never fired in anger. There is no shots fired by the Enterprise or by no one pulls their phaser on anyone. I might have to be double checked on that. I know Chekhov pulls his phaser out and tries to use it on the USS Enterprise nuclear carrier, and it doesn't work. And on the bridge of in the motion picture, when V'ger is about to take Aliyah, a security guard enters and he's just a little too quick on the trigger. He pulls his phaser, but I don't think he fires it. But I think actually, there's a lot of things that happen in the movie. It truly is Star Trek, but it was very decompressed and it was written in 3 acts instead of 5. And so it was the pacing and it was the visual, having the time to invest in special effects and show don't tell, instead of being a procedural kind of television show from 66 to 1969. It had to follow those rules of TV, of the Western, or or the police show. They had they had beats, and then they had act breaks made for commercials. And so, but I think it's just the Star Trek: The Motion Picture and Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home are very pacifist movies because there are no shots fired in anger. I think they shot a phaser or a photon torpedo to get out of the wormhole, to collapse the wormhole when they were trapped, in the subspace, in the warp, and that trippy scene. I think that begins Act 2. You want exactly. You know what? They should have hired somebody more ethnic, to be honest. And Ricardo Montalban, he is Mexican, and he was playing a subcontinental Hindu kind of person. And I would have even said, who would have been a great choice? John Leguizamo should have been Khan in Star Trek Into Darkness. I mean, just that I could just see it, that the look in his face, the eyes, the presence, the charisma, the vibe. You know what I mean? John Leguizamo, why is that's putting Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan Noonien Singh. That's almost a race swap. In reverse, I mean, that is a race. Okay, I don't like race swaps and that's some woke tomfoolery. But wow, I never thought of it like that before. Why would they race swap? How could they? Was India that colonized by the Brits? Because Bad Robot and Secret Hideout, they've had to adjust the Earth's history a bit. They had to move things up. So the eugenics war no longer happens in the 1990s. That's where Khan Noonien Singh comes from. You know what I mean? And that was based upon the original series. So now modern Trek, I mean, it's that has almost a Marvel-like sliding timeline now, that it's had to move several events up in Earth's history to match up their place in history. Something like that. Into Darkness was a mess. I saw it 3 times in a row at the show. I really tried to like those movies. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I was really rooting for those. My God, Star Trek Beyond that was the worst. Read Passage to India, Sully. It will give you a clear idea about the British colonization of India. Sure, yeah. Indeed. Well, we were colonized by the Brits too, but we weren't the indigenous people. But yeah, it's the 45th anniversary of Star Trek, the motion picture. Awesome. Let's get to some comic books. Why don't we? But one thing that wasn't on the list, I just want to say, physical media. I love physical media. I picked this up from Amazon. It was literally 60% off. I got it for about $22, then plus shipping. No, not even plus shipping. I got Amazon Prime. It's already paid for. So it was about $24. The complete series of HBO's Sex and the City. It's on DVD, but I don't care. I watched this show twice. The movies do it no justice. The movies are horrible. But like talking about something that's original, these are 22-minute episodes told in, I think, a 3-act structure, or I'm not sure if it's quite 5 acts, because even network sitcoms, they're about 22 to 24 minutes, and they have they have a cold open. Sometimes they have a cold open, and then they have 3 commercial breaks. So that's 4 acts. 5 if you have a cold open, like before, the credits. So, but Sex and the City, these are 22-minute episodes. This is one of the best written sitcoms ever. And I'm looking at it now, such as now I have this trinity of this Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman of the HBO shows that started off all of this, this bingeable television, this long form, stuff. I've got Sopranos on Blu-ray. I've got The Wire on Blu-ray, and now I've got Sex and the City. So I've got the original HBO trinity of these massively successful shows. I mean, this was so funny. Like every episode has the one diner scene, which is rooted around the theme of the show. The theme of the show is like you have Carrie Bradshaw, played by Sarah Jessica Parker. She's got 3 best friends: Charlotte, Samantha, and Miranda. And they all represent a different kind of American woman. And they're all in their 30s. Samantha's in her 40s, going on her 50s. They're all at a certain age. They're all unmarried. They all live in the city, late 20th century Manhattan. They're all successful. You know what I mean? The feminist dream come true. But they're all juggling their dating lives. And Carrie is a writer, published in a newspaper. A lot different than like today, where it's like a blog or like you're writing for some kind of, and she writes her Sex in the City, and that's the name of her column. It's about being a 30-something single woman in the world's biggest city or the world's greatest city. And so every episode revolves around the thesis statement of her article for that week. It's an interesting conceit. It's a really interesting show. It's so well designed, so well written. It goes on for 7 seasons, I believe, and 6 seasons, 94 episodes on 17 discs. And it's one of those shows where I can watch the opening theme every time, like Sopranos and like The Wire and like Buffy. And I was going to say Lost, but they didn't have an opening theme music. They had that sound effect, with the title card. That's about it. But Sex in the City, this is a really, really good show. I mean, it's a chick show. But you know what? It's not that it wasn't made for me. This was made for a general audience, or a specific audience in the general audience, a rated R audience. There's nudity, there's sex, there's drinking, but there's long form storytelling over this. We see character arc, we see relationships, we see friendships over time, and it's very charming, and it's a very, very good show. It's one of my favorites, and it was at the right price. And like my mom said to me all the time, it's not what you spend, it's what you save. And I've always wanted this. It was $24. I couldn't say no. You have a place in my heart, and you have a place on my shelf. These 4 girls are great. And yeah, what's next? I would like to get MASH. On physical media. I really would. Oh, it was made for the NSLE. That's right. Thank you, Bone. Namaste. Om. Oh, boy. Let's see. All right. Well, let's get some comic books. What's in the bag? Well, we'll find out at the end of the show. But let's go down to some comic books that I read in my pirate chest. My digital pirate chest this week. Full of Marvel comics. I didn't read that many DC comics at all. There were a couple of indie comics that came out that I kept my eye on, specifically Patra #4 by James Robinson with delicious, horrific, grotesque art by Scott Collins. That wraps up a 4-issue mini. I missed the first issue, so I can either go back and hunt down the floppies or the inevitable trade paperback, which will come out. But it's really 2 really reputable comic book creators, and it's good to see that this has been released on a small press. I could easily see something like this being like on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or Fund My Comic, But no, there's still publishers publishing books, and yeah, Patra. It's really interesting. Also, Violent Flowers by Maria Lovett. It's a vampire story. I think it's Image, and it's just she writes it, she draws it, she inks it, colors it, and letters it. It's a 1-person show. I think I like that in a book. I didn't really like her previous book. I think it was called Crush. I think that was it. It was like based on an app that all the kids at some kind of prestigious school had. So there was like, and that app had ended up having supernatural properties, and so it was kind of horror movie meets teen slasher stuff that meets mystical tech, a haunted app. It's a portal. It's a portal to hell or something like that. Degenerates, all of you. And but yeah, that's a really good book too. I'm thinking about waiting for. I didn't pick up on 1 or 2. I read those in my digital pirate chest, and those are 2 sideways recommendations from the channel here and from Pikachu. And if you're looking for an indie to pick up, yeah, try Patra, try Violent Flowers. Violent Flowers, it's vampire stuff. Lesbian vampires. Dude, the second vampire story was a lesbian vampire story anyway. The first vampire story was Varney the Vampire. The second was J.F. J.S. Le Fanu's Carmilla. Camilla. And dude, you got to look that one up. That's a pretty spicy. The third biggest Dracula story was at the end of the 18th century, and it was a little ditty called Dracula by Bram Stoker of Ireland. And well, what did we read this week? We read a bunch of Marvel comics this week, and some real stinkers and some real kind of iffy ones. Oh yeah. Oh, Mo asked me if I could take some pictures. I'll get. I haven't been in downtown Boston in a little while, but General, what really bugs me about the original Frasier? We never see Maris. That's the joke. Yeah, that's the joke, because we never see Vera in Cheers, Norm's wife. We never. It's the same joke, different characters. So it's like you're carrying that joke over from Cheers into its spinoff. Yes. Oh yeah, that's where that started. But we never see her. She doesn't have an actress. She doesn't. The closest we've seen to, I think, Tamaris or Vera was a pie in the face. I think it was Vera, and it was Thanksgiving at Carla's, and it turned into a food fight. And so the door opens and it's Vera. So we finally get the Vera reveal, and she gets a pie in the face. So the big joke, the irony, is that we don't see Vera because she's got pie all over her face. We don't, So yeah, so Niles' wife Maris, that carries over. That's the same joke. Cheers was my first restaurant gig. They changed the name to Cheers to have the sign. But before that sign, they had the sign over the stairwell. And it used to be called the Bull and Finch Pub. And I worked there from 1991 until 1993 or 1994. And I worked there for the last 2 seasons of the show. And they would show up once a year to do location shots. So there was this famous, spoilers, Mo. 2, 3, 2, 1. When Lilith leaves Frasier for another man, Frasier thinks about self-deletion, and so he's threatening to jump out of the window above Melville's, on the 4th floor of 84 Beacon Street, where Cheers is in the basement, and Melville's is the seafood place on the 1st and 2nd floor. So they came there, and so there's Kelsey Grammer, and he's hanging out the window. And then there's BB Newirth, and she's on street level. You're not going to jump, Frasier. But there was some wackadoo chick up there going, jump, Frasier, jump. And the police had to take her away because she was being a nuisance, because that wasn't part of the the plan. The microphones were picking that up, and so BB Newirth was changing on the 4th floor, and a buddy of mine went to go get ice, and he walked in on her, and he was like, "Wow, she is incredibly hot. She was really pretty." So Ted Danson, I met them all, and then there was the last call, which was the finale, and Jay Leno did the Tonight Show. They had set up bleachers out front on. They closed off Beacon Street. They had they made 2 sets of bleachers. It was a big arrival for the cast and the crew. They came through the center of the bleachers, and so the cast and the crew watched the finale at a big party. It was a big to-do, big thing for Boston too. It really was. Cheers was huge for Boston, and I was there, yeah, and because I worked at the restaurant, so I was working the door, security. I had traded this guy that worked for NBC. He was one of the cameramen, and the truck, they had these huge trucks, and hey, the memes of destruction has arrived. Now we can bust out the Twinkies. Woo! Yes, indeed. Hostess cakes, Drake cakes as well. I'll have the Nutty Buddy. And Yeah, I traded him a staff shirt because the staff shirt's in the Bull and Finch pub and with the Cheers logo on it too, and it's staff, embroidered polo shirt. And you don't only get the staff; you only get them. People always would give us fucking a couple of $100 for these too. I traded him for an NBC Sports windbreaker and a hat, and that was cool. Here we go. Talking about Cheers and Frasier. That's right. Let's go back to comic books. So where were we? Yeah, we were starting to talk about all new Venom #1. Raise your hand out there if you didn't read it. We don't care. We're going to talk about it anyway. It's Al Ewing, and it's issue 1 of the all new Venom. Venom War just wrapped up. We're going to, okay, I just want to say spoilers. Spoilers for Venom War. Yeah. Venom War was a 38 magazine long, I think it lasted 6 weeks, 7 weeks or so over Marvel. You had Venom War, and then you had all the spin-offs and the occasional tie-in issues, especially on Carnage and on Venom specifically, both written by Torrin Grönbeck. I've come on to Torrin Grönbeck through Carnage, and I really enjoyed the heck out of it. So we have this cast of characters, such as who is the new Venom? So we have a kind of who's who of 4 or 5 different characters, that one of them is Venom. And who said, is it, or is it just going to be it's going to be none of them? Who knows? Madame Mask, she's a very famous, villainess. There's Robbie Robertson, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle. There's Rick Jones, professional sidekick, unpowered mainstay of the Marvel Universe. There's Luke Cage, mayor of Marvel New York City. Also Power Man with unbreakable skin. He can't fly. He doesn't have super strength. You know what I mean? I don't think he does. He's just very well built, but he's got unbreakable skin. You know what I mean? And I think one of his he can be poisoned. You can blow a micro dart into his mouth while he's yawning. Slip a Mickey into his grape soda. Yeah, I went there. I said it. I drink the grape soda too. I've eaten the government cheese. I'm from the projects, yo. From the streets. He can lift a car over his head. Okay. So he does have super strength. All right. I didn't know if that was yeah, thank you. He is kind of, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so, and then also we were shown Paul and Mary Jane. Paul Rabin, star of Amazing Spider-Man, brought into our world. Paul's going to be the most fascinating character. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of him just because everyone hates him. I really don't like him as a character. I think it's just, I've never seen a more obvious stand-in for what the editors and writers think of the fans since Superboy Prime. I like them apples. I said that. But Paul Rabin, yeah, and his common law wife, Mary Jane Watson, he's tapping that ass. Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Well, they spent 4 years together in some kind of parallel pocket universe, Earth, trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic, place of guns and danger and on the run and survival. And then they had these two imaginary children too. That Rabin's father, Rabin Senior, concocted out of thin air. Mm-hmm. This is I love these. This is a lemon parfait. I get these at the supermarket. They're $2.99. It's like a huge piece of, it is like pound cake and a layer of a lemon curd or strawberries or blueberries, like kind of like pie filling, and then a layer of whipped cream, and then another layer of crumbled pound cake, jelly, preserves, and more. Yeah, I love dessert. Mm-hmm. That's enough. I'll eat the rest for breakfast. I will never forgive Joe Quesada for breaking up Peter and MJ. Exactly. But, I don't know. Peter's going to like his second wife a hell of a lot more. Just saying. And I don't mind Joe Kelly's 8 Deaths of Spider-Man so far. I mean, the McGinnis art's pretty good. There's only so much you can blame, J. Michael Straczynski for that. That was definitely editorial, telling him what to do. And you should, honestly, who's to blame for this? It's Mark Miller. Why? Because he's the one that unmasks Peter as a huge story point, in act like Act 2, the Act 2 range of Civil War. That's when the stakes really change. And that's what caused the whole thing. So it's really Mark Miller's fault. And JMS didn't really, in the end, go along with the whole thing. He bailed. I think he wanted off that book. And it's good that he's come back to it in a way, too. He had the Ghost of the Green Goblin prequel thing. And there we go. A lot of it we liked. I liked that book too. A lot of that was fun, but to be honest, it fucked everything up. I'm a huge fan of Mark Miller, and dude, he follows me on Twitter. I send him pictures of my pint of Guinness next to his comic book that I'm reading that week. His new comic book. He loves that. You get a retweet out of him, But yeah, all new Venom. I bet you it is Paul. My money's on Paul as Venom. Because that's just it's kind of like it would be consistent with Marvel being like, fuck the fans. Seriously, Grant Morrison said that literally 23 years ago in something called the Morrison Manifesto. And he was coming on to the X-Men book. He was doing, and it was corporate syzygy as well, because it was the year 2000. And the Bryan Singer X-Men movie with Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman was about to come out. And so the new X-Men became the flagship title over Uncanny X-Men. New X-Men, which was formerly the adjective-less Jim Lee Volume 2 book. And Grant Morrison came on at issue 144 in mid-2001. And they're wearing leather jackets, and he's doing his Grant Morrison thing. But there was a famous thing. I had a copy of it. It was in the back. I believe it was in the back. You can look it up on the internet, too. Just look up the Morrison Manifesto, New X-Men, 2001. And he literally says, fuck the fanboy. But back then, it was about the true to the heart of subversion and about trying, when that was cool. I mean, it was like everyone does Buffy speak now in a comic book or a TV show. But when Buffy was Buffy, being Buffy, when Buffy was on, it was the coolest shit. You know what I mean? I miss Wizard Magazine too, General. I wonder who owns the name and why there isn't a robust website with a YouTube show. Wouldn't it be great if we were all associated with Wizard.com TV, Wizard on YouTube? Wouldn't you? I would love that to be like. I would love to have like, hey, it's the Super Sully Sunday stream from Wizard. You know what I mean? And like, you know, and we talk about comics, and we're the ones who buy comics, and we try to keep the comic book industry alive with our patronage. Thank you so much, Mo Salam, and it's good to. Mo says I have to go now, guys. Good night and have a fun evening. Thank you so very much from the other side of the world, from Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much. And I just think, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lapse in judgment. You want to talk about marketing? Where's the marketing in comic books? Who's talking about comic books? It's only the chuds versus the white hats. It's and then there's people like me in the between with Wes and the whole crew. And I don't think that way. I think we're center right to center left. Yul Carter, he's very center left. Hey, Dwayne Muth, how you doing? Good to see you. He's very left, dude. I love Yul. I love running into Yul Carter and Ethan Van Sciver's live chats during when you catch a live stream, because Yul loves pushing back on Ethan's, you know, bloviating in his hot air. I do too. I love Ethan though. But also I love seeing, you know, I love it to see Yul do it live. And he's not a jerk about it, and he's not an SJW about it. He's just very wry and very Yule. But also it's like, you know, and then you have Aaron Sparrow, who's definitely a bit more right of center. And then, you know, and then you got me, who's kind of very center, because I'm a big yin and yang kind of person. You know what I mean? You need balance. So all new Venom. Yeah, it's definitely an unremarkable issue. It's all set up, no payoff, because it's an issue 1 of like a 5. It's going to be 5 issues, and just that's the first story to be told in the trade paperback format, because I don't think they do many 6-issue trade paperback arcs anymore. I think they go to 5. You save 22 pages that way. For every page you save, that's a story page. Those are art pages too. So you're saving overall, and then you could charge the same as your trade paperback. It was still $19.99, but it can be 22 pages shorter. Therefore, you know what I mean? We're going to do more with less. That's right. So yeah, all new Venom #1. Read that. It was definitely like a 6 out of 10. Whatever. It didn't suck too much. Like X-Force #6 by Jeffrey Thorne. It feels really forced not to. Oh my goodness! Just talking about you with your ears burning. Good thing I was talking good shit. Yul and I were on Wes is Thinking Critical yesterday morning. It's always a fun time. Really is. We have great conversations, and yeah, it's really interesting to be doing things from my iPhone. See, here doing my own show, I can at least interact with the live chat through StreamYards, but being a guest through StreamYards on someone else's show, there's an extra step involved, and that's when I boomer it. I hit the boomer wall. And so it's like, I got a choice. So for anyone that was tuned into Wes's show yesterday and tried to, I wasn't ignoring you. I had no access to the live chat. And that's in 3 weeks now, because I've been on the show 3 weeks. And that's cool. He'll hit me up last time, like Friday night and be like, hey, can you be on the show? Yep. I'm the bench. I love it. But yeah, good to see you. Good to see everyone. Speak and his name shall appear. Exactly. But X-Force #6. I didn't like this issue. I didn't like the last one. I really liked the first issue of this series, but it went down issue by issue. I'm liking NYX more than X-Force. I'll put it that way, because I had no expectation for NYX, and it kind of at least stayed consistent. It was just bad, and it stayed bad. And if there's anything satisfying, that can be pleasing. Don't worry, we'll talk about NYX number 6 as well. Because there's not much to say about X-Force number 6 besides it is kind of a snooze fest. And, you know, what are you paying? $3.99 at $4.99 an issue for this stuff. From the ashes. Ash to ash, as they said in Requiem for an Extreme. Ah! Sorry, I just write down what Pikachu writes. I read what Pikachu writes. I'm just the talent. He's the brains of the operation. All right, all dirty jokes are on him. Trust me. So NYX number 6 happened. Everyone's going to the Dazzler show. Come on, kids, let's go. It's like the beginning of 1979's Foxes with Scott Baio and Jodie Foster and that girl from The Runaways. And she was Annie, and she says, if I die, I want you to plant an apple tree over me. Said you can always say every year that Annie tastes so good. And guess what? It happens. Annie's gonna die by the end of Act 3. Oh no! But we all rush into the Sparks show. Sparks, yeah, Sparks. They were huge in the late 70s, man. Foxes, Jamie Foster, Jodie Foster, Scott Baio. Look it up. It's a good double feature with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Same kind of area of town, same kind of kids. Same, you know what I mean? Yeah. Awesome. Indeed. But NYX, yeah, that happened. It wasn't great. But it's Lansing and Kelly. I mean, yeah, what do you really want out of that? At least like there were 2 Al Ewing issues this week that were pretty good. It wasn't all New Venom. It wasn't that. But let's see. There was Werewolf by Night number 5. There was a red band of that. Is the prettiest, most boring comic I've seen in a long time. Really good artwork. And there's the payoff of a big Hulk fight at the end. And I'm a big Hulk fan, so I'm reading all the modern Hulk, the Philip Kennedy Johnson stuff. So Bruce Banner has a certain look. Every time you see him, he's just, you know, you can hear the Lonely Man, that the minor key. You can hear do 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 ding 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 from the TV show. So like there's Bruce Banner's theme, yeah. Oh boy, what was that? I don't think anyone owns the Wizard brand name. It's very generic. The logo might be harder to manage, but a quick change would be easy. But I mean, like, I would love to be like the authorized, authentic Wizard. Now, a YouTube show with a YouTube culture. It's something like a unitive force too. That means, you know what? Both of you, if you misbehave, you're out. You know what I mean? There's this common holy ground, Highlander. You know, let's consecrate some ground. Let's do something that we can all do together, you know, and to market and to pimp and to turn each other on to books that we might not know of. Like yesterday, we're talking about what's the best indie book of 2024, Sully. And it surprised me coming out of my mouth. I didn't want to bumble it again, but it was Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. And that was a 6-issue mini. And I didn't even buy it. I still got to pick up the trade paperback. But I read it every month. It was part of my pirate chest. The pirate chest is a Dropbox, like that goes around. To the guys, and you know, and I'm blessed and grateful to have access to some reader copies. And I'm always telling they send it to me, and I'm always like, hey, this that. And I get turned on to new titles a lot through this, and I'm willing to spend money on it too. And that's the best. That's the big part. Show up to your LCS. Show up to your local comic book shop. Spend some money. Buy your supplies while you're there. You need some skins. You need some boards. You might need a box. Pick some up while you're there. Start a pull list. I got 10% off of all supplies with my last pull list in my last comic book shop. So it's like, I'm at a new comic book shop now since I switched neighborhoods, but I've yet to plumb what deals are waiting for me. Because I know I can get some deals too. There's a VIP membership I think I'm already part of. I've been part of since like like 1987 or so. I was still on file there. They were like, I was like, oh, Callahan Way? I'm like, yeah. Like, holy shit. I haven't lived there since like 1995. Seriously. And, oh, shucks. Support your local comic book shop. Thanks. It's just about just believing it. And it's think of less of selling it to somebody, but more like sharing the opportunity for them to share and enjoy this too. You're gonna have to pay your own fare what part, but it's there for you. Come on, come with us. Come with me if you want to live. The power of positivity. Don't worry, I got bad days too. Sometimes I kick Pika across the room. No irony, just like kick that little shit down the hall. I feel like Pele. No, I don't do that. No, I don't do it to Pikachu. No. Maybe as a younger man, I would have. But let's see. Spider-Gwen #8 by Stephanie Phillips. It wasn't that bad, but then we have to put it on the Stephanie Phillips scale, which is a different scale. It's like Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly need their own scale. So NYX on the Lansing Kelly scale is not as bad as it's its own definition of bad, and it can't be like fairly compared to other comics because there's no comparison. You just have to I'm doing it to be nice, to be honest. But Spider-Gwen, it's not entirely terrible, but it's like for Stephanie Phillips, and that's a good one. There was Star Wars Jakku, Rebellion Rising, something like that. Issue 3. It had some Stefano Raffaele art, and hey, good to see you. Oh yeah, I thought I saw something. Oh, sorry. Stefano Raffaele did the art for this, and it was pretty darn good. Like Warwick Davis. There's a character that looks just like Warwick Davis. It's like so. It's like Stefano Raffaele has the photorealism of Phil Noto, but he's got some kinetic action and movement behind it. So his action scenes, and that there's some natural. Phil Noto is beautiful. It's very photorealistic, and he does a lot of Star Wars stuff, but it's very stodgy. It's very stiff. It's not a lot of power behind his panels, and I got turned on to Raffaele during Catwoman, and also Ram V on Tech. So yeah, it wasn't. Raffaele's art elevated the mediocre story. But Werewolf by Night too. Yeah, that was, very pretty talky stuff. X-Force #6, we talked about that. Oh yeah, Ultimates #7 by Denny's Camp. It's very well drawn. There was one segment in there that was actually hitting me with the feels unintentionally. It's the original Human Torch and Steve Rogers Captain America, both from the 1940s, now in 2024. Literally, see, what's this going to be like in 6-7 years? Does the Ultimate line, is it going to age like the old New Universe and with real time? Because that's been the whole conceit from the beginning of the new Ultimates line, that it's in real time. Every new issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, it goes, the month that it's released in. It's supposed to chronicle the 12 months until the maker returns. And I already got it figured out. I know exactly what's going to happen. Not spoiled either. No, I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to open up the vault, and the maker's not even going to be there. He's already been out. He's just been watching you all from a distance, giggling, watching you all mature into superheroes, seeing everything that you do. And that's my guess. But okay, was Ultimates #7 good? No, it was just more of the same kind of activist stuff, progressive activism, too, from Denny's Camp. I mean, I'm just not into it. I mean, this is supposed to make this for a more general audience. I mean, this is a superhero comic book. It's supposed to be fun, but there was a fun part of this too. It was right at the beginning, and it's the two World War II heroes going to the oldest bar in Manhattan, and it was based upon the real oldest bar in Manhattan. It's called McSorley's. It's in the East Village, and it was opened about 1860. And it's one of my favorite places to go when I'm in Manhattan. It's like they brew their own beer. They've got two kinds of beer. They've got lager and they've got dark. And when you order a beer, they serve it to you in two steins. And they're the kind of beer stein, old-fashioned glass with the beer stein handle on it. And you get two when you order a beer. And they got pub sandwiches. And it was sawdust on the floor. But it's visually, the artist ripped off McSorley's. It even had a Mick something name. And it had like the same awning. It was like definitely taken from a photo reference and an asset. You definitely like there was, but the artist might have been there in their life and know what this bar is because it felt like walking in there. And there's a certain feeling to McSorley's because you're literally walking into the past. It looks like Scorsese's The Gang of New York when you walk into McSorley's. I love going in there. And there's this one thing that if they didn't put this in the comic book, but this is McSorley's here on Earth, our Earth. It's still there, and there's a wire, the length of the bar, and on this wire, there are like all of these turkey wishbones, and sometimes they're only allowed to like dust them because of the food safety hazards and shit, because that shit could fall and end up in the food or the drinks, like accumulate dust, because you're not supposed to touch these things. See, all the soldiers that were shipping off to World War I, these U.S. soldiers, they would meet up at McSorley's and they would put their wishbone up on the wire, and when they got back, they would take it down. And those are all the literal wishbones of the boys and the men, U.S. soldiers that did not make it home from World War I. And the guy at the bar was saying, like, yeah, and the health council, the food inspector tried to get us to take them down, and there was this huge fucking uproar, being like, no, you're gonna leave them. And they were like, okay, let's make it. You have to take them down every once in a while to wash them, but like, okay, then they can stay because they were like, dude, that's like some veteran. This is some real fucking. That's some serious shit. So yeah, I mean, I found something good to say about a Dennis Camp Ultimates book. Yay me! And it's besides that, it's just more activist trash, and I don't say that lightly either. Comics should be fun. Superhero comic books should be fun. I mean, this is supposed to be like this is supposed to be the Ultimate Avengers. It's not Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it. It's kind of like this thing. This was written for an adult segment of the general audience. This is rated R. But it's for the general audience. Why do I love this girls' show? Because it's not just a girls' show. It's not made for me, but it didn't keep me out by being too focused on, just about issues and activism and things. No, it was made for a general audience and an adult general audience. And I think that Ultimates by Dennis Camp isn't. It's not mindful of that. It's not engineered like that. And because Charlotte did. Yeah. Charlotte over Samantha any day. Yeah, but okay, yeah. And what was good at Marvel? Conquest 2099 number 4 by Al Ewing. And it had I like books that have pencils and inks, that have an inker. Marvel still will have the occasional book that's got pencils and inks, and you can always feel it on the page. And it's an Al Ewing book, but it's like it doesn't suck. And I know that's always such a big. It's not a point of contention. It's just, hey, we bust balls on Thinking Critical. That's the flavor of the show, and that's how we're just we're just friends hanging out, busting balls. But I got my tastes, I guess, and but I'm like, hey, I like it when Al Ewing can just do the yeoman's work and just show up and do the job. You could no, this is an Orlando book. What am I talking about? This isn't Al Ewing. This is Steve Orlando. Yeah, Steve Orlando wrote this. And even more so, even better too, because he writes Iceman, and he writes that certain niche that doesn't include, it's like, no, this is supposed to be more general audience-y kind of things. But Conquest 2099 got that. It's very cosmic. It's very accessible. It's very over the top. It's kind of fun. It's easy to understand it's weird and it's out there, but it's like it's filled with lots of action scenes. It's pretty simple. It's a superhero funny book. There's no bones about it. That's all it is. And I would even suggest it. Hey, you want a random Marvel suggestion? Try Conquest 2099. It's 4 issues deep. You know what I mean? It's probably wrapping up in 1 or 2 issues. And if I had the desktop, I could tell you, because I'll boomer it if I have to negotiate the different screens here with the tabs on the touch screen on the iPhone. Can't do it. I have to wait until the full studio's here, and then I can deck everything out with all my tchotchkes and get the Captain America stuff. I was gonna say it's not like I don't miss it. It's just more of like it'll be here when it's here, And let's see, Marvel Holiday Tales to Astonish #1. It's a 3-story anthology book. The first 2 stories written by Jerry Duggan and Phil Noto, which is a Fantastic Four story, but the second story was an X-Men story written by Daniel Kibblesmith, of all fucking people. But it was set between like Uncanny X-Men 143, 144 or so. It was like back in that John Byrne days, or the early, or it was the Austin days. The Cockburn. Dwayne will know. He knows everything. But it was young. It was 13-year-old, 14-year-old kitty, and so they were like more. They were more Hanukkah's tales than Christmas tales because Ben Grimm is Jewish, because he's kind of like a self-insert of Jack Kirby, yeah, and so Ben Grimm is Jewish, and that's like a Marvel canon thing. You know that, right? And so Johnny Storm is just like he's lighting up a menorah in the sky with his flame on powers. That's pretty fucking fun. But it's like we're just saying about Phil Noto, though. These are like he's not making any kind of like big over the top action scenes of punching. Just nice character moments. Just talky stuff. And he does fine. So, but no, Jerry Duggan and Phil Noto, they've been collaborating, as a battery for the better part of 2 decades. Those are their old friends, and they work together a lot. And the second one was done by Kibblesmith, and the final one was done by Ewing, and it was a Spider-Men story. So it was Peter and Miles. It was a little Christmassy. What I noticed it because they didn't mention Hanukkah in it, barely mentioned Christmas, but I was thinking Miles is half Puerto Rican. And so I don't know. I've never heard of a Puerto Rican Protestant before. I mean, mostly everyone's they were like Irish people, lots of Catholics. We eat fish on Fridays, and we do Stations of the Cross there at the church there at the first Friday of every month. But I know a lot of Puerto Ricans, and they're mostly Catholic. So I'm thinking where was the Feliz? Where was Feliz Navidad. You know what I mean? Where it's like tuki 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 tu vamos a mi burrito vamos a la Jesus burrito sabane burrito rito sabaneo burrito rito sabane conmigo burrito sabaneo si Belen boy camino de Belen si Belen boy camino de Belen tuki 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 tu, vamos a mi burrito, como vamos a tuki 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 tuki, tuki 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 tu, vamos a mi burrito, como vamos Jesus. That's a South American Latino Christmas song, Burrito del Belen, to bring the burrito to Bethlehem. You know, where are we going to bring the baby Jesus? We'll bring him the biggest burrito we got, kids. Dude, yeah, it's a cute song. Yeah, I mean, I'm a chef. I speak a little Spanish, man. Like I work with a lot of Central and South Americans, man. Seriously, they're like, "Gringo, how do you know that song?" I'm like, dude. Yeah, man. Yeah, there you go. There's a snort. But overall, I enjoyed it. Marvel Holiday Tales to Astonish #1, and I like the Hanukkah stories because, listen, I have a Jewish ex-girlfriend. I love Jewish people. One of my closer friends at work was a Jewish. It was a Jewish rabbi. It was a rabbi chef. He used to. He was the chef of the kosher kitchen. You know what I mean? You know, if you're an Orthodox diner, what do you do when you're on campus? If like we have a kosher kitchen, you know, and there are kosher meals available upon demand. Exactly, and it's not a burrito, something like that, man. Soy un gringo bruto, pero bruto feliz. Something like that, man. But yeah, because with all the weird, you know, Jewish hate on Jewish people, it's weird. It's got to go. I mean, but it's good to see not just Christmas being represented in comic books, but Hanukkah as well. I think that's cool. Avengers 21. You had some really good Valeri Sheedy art, and the cover has this conflict that's brewing between the Avengers and the X-Men, both written by Jed McKay, and it's the Adjective X-Men team, the Alaskan Cyclops team, and it ends up being they end up having a baseball game, which is cute. That follows with like X-Men lore and just. But then it's like it's just more of like Carol talking, having a heart-to-heart with Scott, being like, "Can we count on the X-Men when the chips are down?" And he's like, "Can we count on the Avengers?" Yeah, and they hug it out. And and but there's one dinner scene where everyone's sitting down, and the first establishing panel has this really nice moment of you see Magneto in his chair, you know, going like this, reaching out and saying hello to Wanda, who's responding, and she's looked so happy to be seeing her father. And so that's a really nice moment. But then the next panel with Magneto saying like, well, I was died and I was reborn and I was this, I was that. And now I am here to be an X-Men and to live what I've learned and to stand up against the oppressors and represent the oppressed. Which is weird coming out of Magneto's mouth because he's Jewish. And he was in a concentration camp. And ideas such as oppressor versus oppressed come from Marxism. Karl Marx, the Communist Manifesto, 1848. Karl Marx was a rabid anti-Semite and racist. And Marxism is the basis of not just communism, which was of the Soviet Union and China, but of socialism and of National Socialism, the same National Socialism and fascism that took over 1930s Italy and 1930s Germany. I see a disconnect there. So it's like Magneto is being the woke auntie at Thanksgiving. But it's balanced, though, by the end of it, because then you have a nice moment with Storm, because Storm is currently an Avenger. She's filling in for Thor as God of Thunder. So now, so Storm is now, she's talking about Xavier's dream and how she compares it to America. And that, you know what I mean? Maybe there's something unattainable to both, but it's very worth fighting for in principle, in the spirit of it. And it's a good ideal. And it's a good motivation to have and to strive for. So that's what I keep striving for. And it's not about being naive. And it's not about, tilting windmills or being Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. It's about having, a structure for your morality. And Xavier's dream and America are two things that are worth fighting for. The ideal, the core ideals. And that, and it's flawed. It's a very flawed road too. And so, he was. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. Yeah, his father was a rabbi, and his father, came. I think they changed their name and stopped publicly being Jewish because of all the anti-Semitism that was in that part of Germany, that you could call Germany back then. Was Germany yet by 1848, or was it still like Prussia and all the German history is so interesting, man. It really is. But still, it's like, it was like Magneto was just being like it doesn't sound like Magneto. Now you can always argue, well, this is Magneto at this point of his life. He's come back from death a few times. He's learned his lessons. He's seen the light, and now he wants to fight against the oppressed, because he was an oppressor and he's been oppressed, and now he's seen it. He's awake. He's been woken. But he intrinsically doesn't sound like Magneto. He sounds like the writer using the story's platform, and at least I will say, at least there's like some ideological robustness, because that's Magneto's the only person that sounds like that. Because then you have Storm with her non-naive realism too, realism. But Avengers. But then there was X-Men #8, also written by Jed MacKay, and it's kind of decent, and it's action. It's part 1 of 4. It's called Raid on Grey Malkin. Professor Xavier's the Institute has been turned into a prison for mutants, the most dangerous kind, and we think that Professor X is being held captive there. And there's some kind of initiative that are arresting mutants and weaponizing them. And so they started, and the X-Men start disappearing one by one. And so Hank McCoy wakes up in the prison along with Jubilee and one of the new mutants, the Outriders, something like that. Or she was on Rogue's team. Sorry, she's on Rogue's team. Okay, and that's Gail Simoni's character. All right, but she's the one that rides the Pegasus, and Storm shows up. And Rogue shows up at the end. So it's gonna we're gonna have a Unity team. We're gonna have an X-Men team up. Yay! New mutants. I think 3 news, maybe 4. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read New Mutants. Miles Morales 27, written by Cody Ziegler. I like to read this book because this is a very modern Marvel book. When it comes to art style, house style, when it comes to, manga kind of exaggerations, cartoony, but reined in, but not really outlandish or, it's a lack of hyperrealism, and it's a nice smooth style, but it's all digital. Everything's drawn on a tablet. It's inked on a tablet, if you can call that inking anymore. and all the sound effects, all the lettering. It's a very 21st century magazine, but it works on its own. It really, and it's Miles Morales. Real quick, he's dating the Vulture's granddaughter, who's known as Starling. She's got her own wings. He's been bitten by a vampire, specifically Blade or Dracula, or was it? So he's a very powerful vampire. And he's struggling with his vampirism, and so he's getting help from T'Challa, who gave him a vibranium-laced spider suit, which has got a nice design to it too. I'm a big sucker for a Spider-Man alternate costume. So it's like a T'Challa, Miles Morales buddy movie. And it's a lot of action scenes, and it's quite decent. It's like when I fall back on, when is just okay as a story. But also it's like, I'm not buying Miles Morales Spider-Man written by Cody Ziegler. As much as I'm enjoying it, I should be bucking up for it. I should be buying a floppy. I can't buy everything. I don't have infinite space. I don't want to buy everything. I'm glad I'm reading different books, but I could be, though. I'm kind of on the fence. I like it that much. I mean, like I said, Cody Ziegler, we give these writers so much crap. Al Ewing, Steve Orlando, Stephanie Phillips, Tini Howard, Dan Slott, Jed McKay, Steve Orlando. Did I say him already? Just like we give all of these people a lot of grief. So it's for me, it's refreshing when they do the yeoman's work, when they just show up, do the job, and get it done. When will they do a Blake Count Chocula crossover? That's a good idea. Ooh, imagine if there was a strawberry cereal, like Blade takes over Count Chocula for a month, and instead of, that's like the end of the red food dye number 40 that RFK Jr. is trying to get rid of. It ends up in there. Oh my goodness. It would turn your milk red. Ew. Oh, I know. Bloody awful. Bloody hell. But yeah, I mean, Miles Morales 27. Miles Morales has been a consistently decent comic book. And it's not great, because I like better art. I like better coloring. I like better, but it's not. This is as common as a book you can get, but it's not thoughtless all the same. It's a young book. Yeah, that's I'm an older fan now, and I guess I respect the hell out of Miles Morales Spider-Man by Cody Ziegler. And that's that for the pirated comics. So now, what's in the bag? That's right, what's in the bag? We're going to find out, what did we buy at our local comic book shop just earlier today. I went right before the show and to pick up my pull list for the week. I got 5 funny books in here. I spent about $24 American at the local comic book shop. Two of them are from last week, because there was a shipping, something went bonk, and the Marvel books and a couple of the indie books didn't show up. So I got, for $7.99, Incredible Hulk number 19 by Philip Kennedy Johnson. Most of the art by Nick Klein. Danny Earls helps out. And then there's like 3 backup stories. One by Greg, ding, fuck you, Pack, with Amadeus Cho, in a team up. There's a Torrin Gronbeck She-Hulk story, which was pretty decent. And then there was a Benjamin Percy Red Hulk story at the end. But this wraps up Philip Kennedy Johnson's ongoing The Eldest story that's been going on since 1, the resolution of Bruce, Hulk, and their new teenage sidekick, Charlie, and what became her character arc. And this great art. I mean, this is hand-drawn onomatopoeia. That's part of the art. The artist drew that as part of the, and this is a loud, visceral. Look at this splash page. Look at that But that's love these sound effects. And but yeah, it's extra thick. This is Hulk issue 800. Legacy number 800. Ain't that cool? I've never been a real big Hulk reader. But I've only picked up on this about 4 or 5 issues ago. Savage Dragon issue 273. And they got me one of the variant covers. I think this is the second variant cover. You can tell. This is the C cover. Oh dear. Where did that thingy go? This is on my mom's reading specs. Yep, this is 27331. See that 27331? So that 3 is it's the first 31 at the end of that. 273, that's the issue number. 31, that means cover 3. 1 meaning first printing. And that's the last 5 digits of the UPC scan code. One of them, I think. Yeah, it's been pretty consistent. I enjoy the hell out of it. I'm enjoying the hell out of Savage Dragon. It's ribald humor. It's adult. It's sexy. It's naughty. It's dirty-minded. It's got great superhero tropes that it just rips apart and plays with. It's got great panels, great fight scenes. It's stupid. It's fun. I mean, like, and it's a good example of digital lettering too. I mean, none of these onomatopoeia, these sound effects, are hand drawn. They're all cut and paste, drag and drop. But this is like, look at this panel. Look at this fight scene. It's just wall to wall action. And it's got this look to it that it's very kind of like Jack Kirby meets Howard Chaykin meets Frank Miller, Klaus Janson kind of vibe to it. I've never like really been a Savage Dragon reader. I am now. So this is the first issue of Savage Dragon I ever bought. It's on my pull list. Ain't that cool? This came off of the shelf because it's not on my pull list, but it's like, if this is a mini, it's coming out weekly. It's a 4-parter. And this is Batman Santa Claus, Silent Night Returns. This is the sequel to last year's Silent Night, Batman Santa Claus Silent Night. And it's written by Jeff Parker. And this is just pretty good. It's just fun. It's just, but it's like what I was saying about the Marvel Holiday book. This is DC Comics doing an outright Santa Claus book, a Christmas book. Oh, look at the ad in the back. VR Arkham Knight. What you call it? Varkham Knight. There's a QR code for you. But it's okay. You know what I mean? It's a 4-parter. It's a holiday thing. And I like it. Absolute Superman 2. The takeaways from this, there is no ads. There's an ad in the inside cover here for some Batman the Animated Series action figures. I mean, there's a Batman ad on the back for Arkham Shadow, which is a VR game. Become the Night. Only on MetaQuest. Let's see. On the back cover, there's an ad for Watchmen Chapter 2, which is an animated Watchmen. And those... Well, in the back page, too, with the indicia, the checklist, and a little bit of all-in info. That's all the... And then there's a 5-page preview, 4-page preview of Dan Waters' Batman Dark Patterns #1. That's it. It's a $4.99 magazine. And it's a pretty decent story. I mean, yeah, it elevates issue 1. It makes issue 1 a lot better, in my humble opinion. Yeah. And it's not about answering questions as it just is about, just telling the story. It's just, this is Absolute Earth. This is, for the first time, Absolute Lois meets Absolute Kal-El. It's told from Lois's point of view, where she's writing a story. And that's about it. Yeah, it's just pretty decent. I mean, I don't know. And then we have Nightclub 2, issue number 4 of 5. And this will wrap up next month. But this is Mark Millar's sequel to Nightclub about his teenage vampires. What would you do if you were a teenage vampire? Would you try to be a superhero? Well, what happens if that power falls into the wrong hands? Now we're in some real deep nadir of our super squad. It's only going to be solved in the last issue. So it's really good. It's Mark Millar. It's really good over the top. It's vampires, an urban vampire story too. And it's really good. Yeah, and those are the books this week. Awesome. And thank you so much for showing up and hanging out for a little bit today. It's time for me to make my Sunday supper. I think I'm going to make some ground beef tacos. Taco evening, yeah. And whatever's left over, I'm going to put in the freezer, and I'll make chili next week. But I got like about a pound of ground beef I took out of the freezer. I'm like, I got to cook it. At least cook it off and, eat what I can and freeze the rest. You know what I mean? You make chili. You know what I mean? It's a perfectly noble fate for ground beef. Well, thank you so very much for tuning in today. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. Have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy what's remaining of your Sunday. And have a good work week. We'll catch you in the morning with some gratitude. And we'll be here next week with more comic books. And hopefully, maybe we'll finally just bring up the desktop computer so we can go back to having a typical show with some, images. You show some cover art. Thank you so very much. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. And we will see you next week in those funny pages. Ciao. Bye-bye.